Shorts live stream. Start by downloading and installing OBS. Once you're in OBS, click Profile, click New. Type something like YouTube Vertical and show Auto Config Wizard. Optimize for streaming, press Next. 1920 by 1080 will change this later. Set it to 60 FPS as well. Change the service to YouTube. Prefer hardware encoding. Untick estimate bitrate. You want 6000 to 9000. Then click Connect.
Worse is not a word, but I felt worse after they woke me up and I started coming back around and realizing where I'm at and what's going on. And I said, God damn, they just brought me back to life. But I was just in the most peaceful place ever.
Pennsylvania, November 2025. This historic state stands at a real turning point. On paper, the economy looks steady. Unemployment statewide sits around 4.0%, but in Philadelphia, it's still hanging near 6.0%. Meanwhile, more than 12,000 people don't have a safe place to sleep, and homelessness has climbed roughly 12% from last year. Those numbers aren't just lines on a report, they show up in the daily struggles of our neighbors, still fighting to make it paycheck to paycheck.
Said, USA makeup brush for you zesty ass motherfucker.
You know, just because of things like this, you know what I mean? I was scared for my life, and I don't understand why other people aren't, but hopefully this will open up somebody's eyes, you know what I mean?
In Kensington, Philadelphia, major raids on drug operations sweep up dozens of suspects, signaling a push to bring order back to the streets. But beyond these cleanup efforts, one question refuses to fade. Does cracking down on drug supply really make a dent when rents keep soaring and wages can't keep pace? Zoom out to the broader economic picture, and the contrast grows sharper. The U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis just released Q2 and these cleanup efforts. One question refuses Pennsylvania's GDP. Does cracking down on drug supply really make a dent national rents keep soaring and wages can't keep pace? Growth is being driven by the rollout of infrastructure investment and job contrast grows sharper and fresh investment. The U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis just Philadelphia's healthcare cleanup efforts. One question, according to the BLS Pennsylvania, posted a steady 0.7% employment growth in the first half of the year. Wages with unemployment being driven by the rollout of infrastructure investment and job contrast. But behind those polished fresh investment, the U.S. Bureau of Housing inflation is blowing past the limits. Average rent in Philadelphia has surged to $2,200 a month, and more than 20% of middle-class families are now struggling under the heavy weight of housing insecurity.
I moved to Philadelphia 8 years from Kansas City, Missouri. Chasing my dream to be an R&B artist, and ran into some bumps in the road with housing, and basically I'm fighting to be able to love my child, both of my children, my 17-year-old Logan, and Tristan, my 7-year-old. And being homeless it's hard. It's not easy.
Strong economic growth sounds great on paper, right? But it starts to feel like a party where only a small crowd gets invited while everyone else watches from the outside, and some are pushed right out onto the sidewalk. Ever stop and wonder whether we're really building a Pennsylvania for everyone, or just for the lucky few who catch the benefits? That's why in this documentary about street homelessness in Pennsylvania, I want to dig into the 5 biggest forces driving the state's growing homelessness crisis. Using the latest data from HUD, BLS, and BEA, up to November 2025, soaring housing costs, job instability, uneven regional growth, climate-related pressures, and gaps in safety net support. These challenges are woven directly into the economic pulse of cities like Philadelphia, Allentown, Harrisburg, and Pittsburgh. So how does a state rich in history, resources, and determination end up with so many people waking up without a roof over their heads? And what does it say about our system when the economy heats up? Jobs return, and yet the sidewalks are still home to far too many Pennsylvanians. Pennsylvania, November 2025. This historic state stands at a real turning point. On paper, the economy looks steady. Unemployment statewide sits around 4.0%, but in Philadelphia, it's still hanging near 6.0%. Meanwhile, more than 12,000 people don't have a safe place to sleep, and homelessness has climbed roughly 12% from last year. Those numbers aren't just lines on a report, they show up in the daily struggles of our neighbors, still fighting to make it paycheck to paycheck. In Kensington, Philadelphia, major raids on drug operations sweep up dozens of suspects, signaling a push to bring order back to the streets. But beyond these cleanup efforts, one question refuses to fade. Does cracking down on drug supply really make a dent when rents keep soaring and wages can't keep pace? Zoom out to the broader economic picture, and the contrast grows sharper. The U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis just released Q2 2025 numbers, showing Pennsylvania's GDP jumping 3.8%, beating the national average. Growth is being driven by infrastructure investment and Jobs Act projects, and fresh investment flowing into Pittsburgh's tech sector and Philadelphia's healthcare expansion. According to the BLS, Pennsylvania posted a steady 0.7% employment growth in the first half of the year. But behind those polished figures sits a hard truth. Housing inflation is blowing past the limits. Average rent in Philadelphia has surged to $2,200 a month, and more than 20% of middle-class families are now struggling under the heavy weight of housing insecurity. Strong economic growth sounds great on paper, right? But it starts to feel like a party where only a small crowd gets invited while everyone else watches from the outside, and some are pushed right out onto the sidewalk. Ever stop and wonder whether we're really building a Pennsylvania for everyone, or just for the lucky few who catch the benefits? That's why in this documentary about street homelessness in Pennsylvania, I want to dig into the 5 biggest forces driving the state's growing homelessness crisis, using the latest data from HUD, BLS, and BEA up to November 2025, soaring housing costs, job instability, uneven regional growth, climate-related pressures, and gaps in safety net support. These challenges are woven directly into the economic pulse of cities like Philadelphia, Allentown, Harrisburg, and Pittsburgh. So how does a state rich in history, resources, and determination end up with so many people waking up without a roof over their heads? And what does it say about our system when the economy heats up, jobs return, and yet the sidewalks are still home to far too many Pennsylvanians? To face them with compassion, not judgment, is to begin the real work of healing America's streets. Pennsylvania State Budget: the severe impact of cutting social assistance. At the core of Pennsylvania's growing housing emergency is something less visible, but just as damaging: the budget deadlock and the chain reaction created by cutting public services. For more than 100 days, the Commonwealth has been operating without an approved budget for the 2025-26 fiscal year, and the fallout is becoming painfully obvious. Counties, school districts, nonprofits, and social service agencies are scraping by with whatever they have left, or shutting down programs that tens of thousands rely on. In this climate, people who were barely holding on to stable housing are now being pushed closer to losing it. School districts across the state are collectively waiting on roughly $5.3 billion in delayed state payments. After-school tutoring, special education support, housing advocacy programs, and wraparound community services are being cut back or completely paused. And when local agencies can't count on steady funding, the people who depend on these services, older adults, people with disabilities, families working low-income jobs, feel it first and feel it hardest. When housing stabilization programs can't promise rent help because the state budget is stalled, or when nonprofits running transitional housing have to freeze new intakes or close entire wings due to lack of funds, homelessness quietly spreads in the background. The ripple effect is real. The person who gets laid off, or the couple juggling 2 minimum wage jobs to cover rent and utilities, suddenly finds there's nowhere left to ask for help. Moreover, when a budget standoff drags on, the pressure spreads in quiet but serious ways. Counties end up taking out loans or halting new hires, shrinking the very capacity needed to respond to emergencies like evictions or utility shutoffs. The state treasury has stepped in with temporary bridge loans, but those loans come with interest and repayment rules. For organizations already stretched thin, that help can create its own burden. Here's the hard truth: when public funding stalls, shrinks, or becomes unpredictable, it's ordinary people who pay the price, especially those barely keeping their footing. So we have to ask ourselves, should housing stability really be tossed around like a political bargaining chip, or should it be treated as a basic human right? Although certain programs like Medicaid, WIC, and unemployment insurance must continue even during a budget freeze, many others, especially those tied to local contracts or discretionary funding, get disrupted or put on pause. For people living paycheck to paycheck or one medical setback away from crisis, that kind of disruption can decide everything. It can be the line between holding on to a room and curling up in the backseat of a car. That's why a budget impasse isn't just a policy dispute. It becomes a human story about instability, about working people who pay taxes and still face the
Most sodas call it at a reasonable. Most
They broke the law on the outside. And now, behind bars, they're doing it again. Breaking the rules and fighting the system.
Looking for major contraband at Shanks? Any drugs?
no, we think we're good right now.
For 1 year, National Geographic followed the lives of inmates and officers in the state of Ohio. It's a system bent on making inmates better, filled with convicted felons who might be getting worse.
Get out of my face.
This is a year of hard time. – 9 a.m., and already today, the Ross Correctional Institution is on high alert. An officer is down in Unit 4A, punched in the face by an inmate, knocked out, left cold on the floor. Officers race to the scene, and now the attacker, an old-school inmate named Buster Johnson, is headed to the hole to await his fate.
Wave your arms, lift up the piece, turn around, spread your butt, left foot, right foot, spread your butt, shoot, squat.
But back at the scene of the crime, the inmates have already rendered a verdict.
He put his hands on that man. That man, you know, did what he had to do.
I ain't gonna say he had to do it, but it was justified.
They think they tough because they wear gray shirts, they better than us or something. They ain't better than us. They beat out of them.
Attacking an officer is something many inmates talk about, but rarely act on. Lashing out means breaking a cardinal rule of doing time. Never touch staff members, and the punishment is severe. Behind bars, the line between control and chaos is held in check by the rules. But to some, rules are made to be broken, and it's the job of the system to catch the offenders and dole out the punishment. Ross Correctional Institution houses 2,600 inmates of all kinds. A potent mix of newcomers and old-timers. Low-security inmates to threatening gangs. All watching each other and being watched. It's razor wire and concrete block. A fenced-in city of felons. Felons that earned a prison sentence for breaking the law. Felons that are doing hard time. And while most accept their fate, some continue to fight the system and each other.
Quit f***ing over-talking me, dude. On some real
They gonna treat you like shark food if you don't fight for your
I gotta do what I gotta do, man. 'Cause I ain't going home in no casket.
When pop off, when there's tension in the pot or on the yard, everybody gets where they need to be.
So when it's time to rumble, it's time to rumble.
You wanna do it for real? You wanna do it for real?
These are the rule breakers. Confrontational, relentless, defiant.
Just because these guys were incarcerated for being a criminal on the street, it doesn't stop when it gets in here. They're constantly working on being a criminal. These guys